And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your information flow. And we're doing so today with this guy on the screen. You see that guy right there? His name is Tim. And you want to know something about Tim? Well, let me preface it this way. You should want to know something about Tim because here's what I know about Tim. Tim is an all-around great guy. Tim is a father. Tim is a real estate investor. Tim is a guy that is trying to make a difference in his world, and he'd like to leave a lasting legacy for his family. That's part of why Tim does what he does. Now, here's another thing I want to share with you about Tim. Not only is he a member of Lifestyles Unlimited, he made a decision at one point of his real estate investing journey to basically stop doing what he was doing and join the Lifestyles Unlimited team, which means he's part of a group of people that are dedicated to helping you as you pursue this real estate investing journey. It's pretty cool, right? Now, there's a myriad of directions I can go with Tim on regarding this show. But I think the most important thing for us to do for you is to get to know Tim. And the reason we need to get to know Tim is because you're going to find out he's probably very much like you. Now, he may not have had the same career pursuit. He may not have gone to school in the same place you went to school. He may not have earned the same degrees that you earned. But he has a lot of commonality with you because at one point in his life, he kind of felt like everything he was doing, maybe it just wasn't getting him to where he wanted to get to. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring my good buddy Tim on. Hey, Tim. How you doing? I guess you've been on the whole time. I mean, now that we're doing this podcast kind of video stuff, you've been there the whole time, and you didn't doze off on me. So kudos to you, brother.
No, sir. What an intro. Thank you so much. You know me better than I thought you did, Al. It's good to talk to you again.
Man, I just love your story because I mean, let me point out some things to you that you're aware of, but maybe the audience isn't aware of. You have an entrepreneurial spirit. You're a seasoned investor. You're highly sophisticated in the real estate investing game. And for all I know, you might even be accredited. Now, we probably just lost half of the audience by me just spilling that stuff about you. But does that sum you up? I mean, did I get that right?
That's actually pretty close. We're not quite accredited, but we're maybe scratching the surface of it soon. So it's kind of mind-blowing, actually, because I go back about 10 years to where I was, and it was me and my dad knowing we wanted to invest in real estate, but having absolutely no clue how to do it. If I had to guess, we probably talked about it for 10 years. He knew he wanted to do it. He'd studied lots of different investments. It made all the sense in the world. But we didn't know how to get started. So when we found Lifestyles, they gave us a real clear path to it. We had support, we had education, we had mentoring available to us, and we finally took action. But I still look back and I can't believe how far we've come because we knew nothing 10 years ago, and here we are.
So 10 years ago, you were struggling with trying to understand how to do the investing that you're doing now. You and your dad were looking at it. What programs did you look at, or did you just read books, go to the library? How did you get the information that you used to try and move forward with?
So I do remember it's a very popular book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I remember reading that from Robert Kiyosaki, and I was probably a teenager when I read that book. And it was just opening up the idea that there's a way to invest in businesses, to work on your business, not in the business, to have the first concept I'd ever had of passive income. And I define passive income as money that came into my household that I didn't trade my time for. It doesn't mean it was 100% effortless, but ultimately, once you've made that investment, that money's coming in. I wasn't clearly on the clock for it. It wasn't like a W-2 job. And there was no limit to, well, you can only earn so much because you only have so much time. That you could scale it, you could invest more, you could buy more rental homes or passive investments. So we saw that become a reality, a decade or two later as Lifestyles Unlimited members. The thing about Rich Dad Poor Dad is it didn't really tell you how to do it. It just made you dream and think a little bit.
Right?
Yeah, I didn't know where to go with it. It's just, well, I guess somebody's out there making money and not trading time for it. But because that's all I knew, that's all I did for the first 15 or so years of my adult life, just trading time for money. If you want to make more money, you work harder. If you want to if you don't want a job, you work for yourself. And turns out you probably work twice as hard working for yourself.
So is that how Lifestyles Unlimited came into the equation? You guys were looking for the tactical and the operational approach. I mean, you kind of had the strategy from Rich Dad Poor Dad, but you needed the boots on the ground stuff. Am I onto something, or am I making stuff up?
That's 100% it. So you talked about what other programs or things I had explored. In all honesty, Lifestyles was the first thing we found. We found it through a radio show just like yours, listening to the radio. I was an old soul. I was about 32 years old, and I loved talk radio. That's all I listened to. I was self-employed, so I drove around a lot between jobs. I had a landscape business. And in between jobs, you put on talk radio. And naturally, you'd hear the shows. What I loved about Lifestyle's approach to it, the radio show didn't seem gimmicky. They were actually telling you how it worked. They weren't saying, oh, but you got to come to this seminar or this workshop to learn more. They were actually just talking about real estate. You had people on there that were saying, I'm a real estate investor. This is what I've done. Talk to you about concepts like, buying a distressed asset or what cash flow is and what types of loans to use and that type of thing. And I told my dad at that time, I said, Dad, I think if we're ever going to do it, I just have a feeling Lifestyles is going to be the thing that gets us over the hump. And as it turns out, it will.
And on that thought, we're going to go to the next segment, and we're going to pick up the conversation from right there. Stick around. Welcome back to the show. Hey, if you just joined me, I've got my buddy Tim on the show with me. Now, here's an interesting fact about Tim. And Tim has no idea that I'm going to share this fact, so keep your eyes glued on him, and let's see if we get a reaction out of him. Tim?
Yes, sir.
You are clearly an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
True or not true?
Yeah, I think so. Cool. Well, at least I thought I was. I always wanted to do my own thing.
Oh. Okay. Well, I think that's part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you kind of went about things in your life by starting your own business, right?
Yes, sir. It was my first real profession. I was about 20 years old and straight out of working for my dad, who was also self-employed. I saw a guy across the street from my parents cutting a yard in like 15 minutes, and my mind went, boom, there could be some money there. I'd never seen anybody be that efficient. Before I knew it, I was working for him. Before I knew it, a year or two later, I bought the business from him, and that was my first career, working for myself.
How long did you stay in that profession?
A lot longer than I thought I would. Nearly 20 years I did that. Yeah.
Wow. And did you grow the business along the way?
I didn't. And that's where I realized I always worked in my business. I had a lot of my dad's traits. My dad was a self-employed consultant. He did hazardous waste consulting, safety consulting for manufacturers. He never grew it beyond his children working for him because he had an issue with you don't trust anybody. You never really set up the systems to train. I grew up watching him with that mindset. He was a true perfectionist, did incredible work. But we had that idea that if you want it done right, You got to do it yourself. And if you got to do it yourself, you are truly limited to how much energy you have, how much time you have to go out and get things done to make money. And that means your business is going to be very limited. We never knew this early on, but after joining Lifestyles, we finally saw we never did own a business. We owned our own job. So self-employment is different from being an entrepreneur. We maybe had some of the same traits that would lead somebody to that you want that freedom, you want to build something, you want to control it and own it and make it go. But because we didn't know how to make something run on its own, we had to be there every day or the business didn't make money. And I literally saw my dad work 12, 16 hours a day regularly. He was a workaholic. And it's because there was no one else to do it. It had to be him or it wasn't going to get done.
Yeah. I mean, and I think there's a lot of people listening to us that are in that same situation because I don't think that you're an anomaly. I don't think your dad's an anomaly. I think you're part of the millions of people in this country that get up every day, self-employed, trade their time for the money that they make, thinking they're building a business when in reality they're just perpetuating their own job. They may get to call the shots, but I think the job calls the shots more than they call it. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, it's unreal when I look back at 20 years in that business, what I put myself through. And in all honesty, because I never worked on the business, worked on the systems, worked on training people, worked on the idea of replacing myself in the business. If it rained Monday through Thursday, guess what? You're working all weekend to catch up because you didn't make any money and the grass didn't get cut and the customers need you. And you would just work like a dog, crazy hours. Of course, I live in South Texas, so sometimes in the summer it's 105 degrees, and that doesn't mean you get to take a break. Because if you take a break, you don't make money. And that was the life I
And of
built for
course, you
myself.
never had equipment breakdowns. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. I was just pointing out that I think you probably had your share of equipment breakdowns that always showed up at the worst possible time, right?
100%. It's funny too, in that time, um, I was very much so had the mindset of you start slow, you stay debt free. So I always had old equipment that was hanging on by a thread that could break down at any minute. I never financed a nice machine until much later on with a mindset shift that kind of came from Lifestyles, actually. The idea that, hey, sometimes debt makes sense. And I started buying new mowers that didn't break down. I said, oh my gosh, you know, everything changed because my mindset had shifted. But at that point, I mentioned earlier, I listened to a lot of talk radio. One of the biggest talk radio shows on at that time, and probably still today, was Dave Ramsey. And because I didn't have anything else, I gravitated towards Dave Ramsey because at least it was something. It gave me this hope that maybe I'm going to do something. The weird thing for me, Al, is I don't think I needed Dave Ramsey. I was never out of control with debt or spending. I'm a natural saver. I think I had 50 grand saved by the time I was 22 years old and getting married at that time. And that's not a fortune, but not too many 22-year-olds have that kind of money or that kind of discipline to save that kind of money. So with Dave Ramsey, we got into that mindset of, well, I guess the solution is to not have any debt. So we wanted to pay our house off and make sure we never had a car loan and all that. And then something switched. My wife and I had our first child, and we decided she wanted to be with him. We wanted her to be with him. So she finished up working as a counselor and came home to be with him. And I realized all of a sudden with my one income, we were no longer making any ground financially. Everything came to a halt. And that's when I found Lifestyles.
Wow. So you kind of hit a low, but Lifestyles Unlimited was right there to meet you at that low. And I kind of know your story, Tim. You kind of moved away from that low. You became a member, you got educated, got mentored, and you started investing your hard-earned money into real estate. And you didn't get out of that low overnight. It took a little bit of time, but you eventually got out of that low, did you not?
Absolutely. Yeah, just like you said, it took us some time. So my dad and I came from that same attitude I mentioned. If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. So when we join Lifestyles, now we have access to incredible education. They're showing us what we need to do to become owners of real estate investments. And they're showing us multiple ways to do it. So they're saying, well, you could buy some single family rentals. And in all honesty, Al, that's what we thought we were going to do because that's all we knew. We knew some people who owned rentals. So we thought that's what we'll do. That's how you invest in real estate. When we went through the training, though, the 2-day intensive, on day 2, they started talking about multifamily. And we thought, well, we'll come for the show, but certainly these middle class guys can't do that. That's for the multimillionaires. We were wrong. So then our shift changed to let's invest in multifamily. But there was one thing that slowed us down. Because of that need for control, because of that idea that if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. My dad said, let's do an IRO deal. And IRO means independent rental owner. So we're gonna go do it ourselves. We're not going to invest with someone else. We're not going to bring in partners. We're just going to do like we've always done. Go to the grindstone and just grind, just work.
Oh, you're gonna grind. So your dad's got a plan to grind, and we got a plan to go to break. But when we come back in the next segment, what we're gonna do is we're gonna find out how that grind worked out. Stick around. Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon. I'm joined by Tim, and together we're actually working on your financial freedom. And we're doing so by talking about a plan that Tim had with his dad. Oh, really? No audio? Oh, wow. We're doing so by all right.
Take 2.
Okay, let me reset. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon. I'm joined by my buddy Tim. Together, believe it or not, we're working on your financial freedom. We're working on your information flow. We're working on whatever tagline you want to put in there, because at the end of the day, what we're doing here is we're trying to help you understand that there's a better path that you can pursue. And we're just recipients of what Lifestyles Unlimited did for us. And what we'd like to share with you is the fact that maybe you ought to do what we did. Because as you're about ready to find out, Tim and his dad were pursuing a path that was going to cause them to go back to some old thought process, some old beliefs. They were going to do the grind. So, Tim, tell us what the grind really was supposed to be, and how did it actually play out?
Sure, Al. So we get started as members, and now we've got this mindset shift in knowing how to invest in real estate. But there's different ways to go about it. And because all we'd ever known was keeping control, doing our own thing, self-employment. If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. We said we're going to be independent apartment owners. We're going to buy a small apartment. It's just going to be ours. We're going to control it and run it. But here's the thing. We were already at capacity. We're both running our own businesses. We have no extra time. At this point in my life, I have 2 small children under the age of 3. And my wife's busy. She really can't be dealing with something extra like this. I'm trying to run my business, put food on the table. And instead of admitting that we needed to build teams, we needed to get help, we needed other people to be involved, we tried to pursue this for about a good year. And the more I talked with my dad, the more I realized he didn't want a partner on this. He wanted to invest and let me run everything. He knew he didn't have time, so he really wanted to be passive. And I said, Dad,
He was listening to the training, huh?
yeah, Yeah, he was listening. He had the right idea, but he still had that sense of, we don't trust anyone else. If we trusted other people, he would have hired employees in his business. I would have hired employees for my business. We don't trust people. We think we have to do it all. So when I realized he wanted to be passive, I said, Dad, that's what I want to do. I want to be passive too. And I don't feel like I'm ready to jump straight to an apartment. I've never even owned a single family rental home. And now I'm going to jump and run a small apartment. And it was intimidating to me, even though now looking back, maybe today I have that level of confidence. Back then I didn't. I said no. So we both decided, hey, let's look at some passive opportunities. And there were dozens and dozens of people locally who were buying apartment properties, and they were seeking investment. And we knew these members. We met them at educational events. We met them at meetups, really got to know them. And one 5-minute conversation in an elevator, the old office at the old Titan building in San Antonio. I remember going down that elevator with a guy who I eventually invested with. And the idea was, I'm going to put a small amount of money with him because I really like him. I like his style and I want to learn from him. And the thing is, I fell in love with the deal and ended up investing a little bit more. And that I let my dad know about it. He ended up getting in that deal. And that started our journey of eventually investing in over 20 properties between the two of us.
Wow. So from 0 to 20 apartment communities, that is a significant change in what you used to do compared to what you're doing now. So as part of that transition, starting to develop income streams that you didn't have before, what is it like knowing that if you stopped working tomorrow, if your business were to fail tomorrow, could you at least get by on the passive income? And if not, isn't it at least nice to know that that income is there and it's not going to go away while you look to replace the other income you may have lost?
Absolutely. So for me, I'm still working on full retirement, meaning that I've got enough cash flow to completely replace my job income. But it's so much better than the alternative, Al, because back when I started, I had like 30 grand in an IRA and I had some home equity, and those things weren't producing any cash flow whatsoever. So if I lost my job at that point in my life, my home equity wasn't going to pay any bills for me. My IRA, my Roth IRA wasn't going to pay any bills for me. And now the way that we invest, having this cash flow comes in, I know, hey, that gives us a level of stability, that we've got some cash flow to take care of a few things, which really gives you that feeling of peace. And it's funny because Dave Ramsey's plan was Financial Peace University, if you recall. And I had gone through that. I had taught that class at church. I really believed in it. And then I realized when my wife stopped working and that cash flow wasn't there, I didn't have peace, because I felt pressure to, how are you going to pay the bills? How much can you possibly work without running yourself into the ground, without being in a position where I never see my small children? And we have 4 kids now. So, our family's growing and my time with them is precious. So all of these things continue to motivate me to say, the peace comes from buying my time back. And these passive investments, investing in apartment communities that produce that cash flow, has bought some of that time back. And I don't have to wait till I'm 59 and a half or I'm 70 years old and getting Social Security if it's still there for me. I get that money coming in now. And I've had it coming in for about 10 years now. And every little bit, and it doesn't matter if it's $300 or $1,000 or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That's money I didn't have otherwise. That's money that affects and changes my life today. So to me, that was the big difference.
And you've watched your money grow over that 10-year period of time, because, effectively, you started with a certain amount of money, just like I started with a certain amount of money, just like every other member of Lifestyles Unlimited starts with a certain amount of money. And our goal is to grow that money over time. So, Tim, based on your 10 years of experience as a Lifestyles Unlimited investor, have you seen your money grow over that 10 years?
I've seen it grow substantially. That's probably the one thing where I could say, oh, I'm not retired yet. Maybe I've seen other people do it faster. I want to kind of look at myself and look at my journey and say, well, did I do something wrong? And I look back and say, my gosh, look at how we've grown. When I started, it was minuscule. It was nothing worth talking about. And now I look at growing our net worth many multiples, probably close to a 5x on our net worth. And most of that growth has to do with real estate. It has to do with getting our money out of things that we're not producing. We're not producing cash flow. They were not really growing consistently, getting it into quality investments and giving it time to grow. So yeah, I've got a 10-year head start on anybody starting fresh, but I'm glad I started because we've seen the results on the back end. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I have a lot of confidence in this plan where really I had zero confidence in my old plan. That's why I strayed from it. The debt-free thing, I knew that wasn't going to be the solution for me. I knew with my income level, a single income household, that was not going to work. Just eliminating bills was not going to be enough. Just paying off debt wasn't going to be enough. We had to figure out a way to grow. We had to figure out a way to get some more money coming in. So real estate for us was the solution.
Wow, well stated, my friend, because, you just said a lot, and what you said, a lot of people needed to hear. Because there's, I've done a lot of research on this. I don't have the stats in front of me. I can just tell you what the results of the research is. And the results of the research is that a lot of members of our society, a lot of members of the United States of America, citizens, if you will, non-citizens, if you will, all of these people are on a one-way track to having whatever they're doing for their future self implode. And I think you saw that along your way. And as a result of that, you made a significant change. And I think everybody else out there can make that change too. But what they need is something like Lifestyles Unlimited. So in the next segment, we're going to get into what Tim is doing to help you. Stick around. Welcome back to the show. So Tim, the audience has probably been sitting on the edge of their seat trying to figure out what exactly is it that you can do for them. Now you and I, we know the answer already because number one, we're Lifestyles Unlimited members. So we have information that we can share, but you can do more than just share information. Can you not?
Yeah, absolutely. So after 20 plus years of blue collar work and grinding and you know what, Al, I eventually gave up on that. I said, you know what, I need some steady income. I've got mouths to feed. I ended up literally giving my lawn business away to a friend. I mean,
Wow.
it had no value, Al. What I quote unquote built for 20 years had no value. It was just a lawnmower and some customers. I didn't even have them under contract. So I gave it away to get him started. And I shifted into a different job. And the job paid pretty well, but it was killing me. I said, no, this isn't going to work. I saw that Lifestyles Unlimited was hiring. And I thought, I could go for that. This is something that's really meant a lot to me. It's meant a lot to my family. And I could really get behind helping people get started the way people helped me get started. So they had a member services position available. I applied for it, got the job. I'm coming up on 3 years of working here. It's been a joy, Al. I get to help people just like me when I needed help, when I needed a way in, when I had questions, when I was lost and needed some answers. So now I'm part of the team that helps people, guides them through the education, through the resources, so that they can go out and if they choose to take action, they can change their life with real estate same way we decided to change our lives.
So you're kind of in a unique position because not only can you help the members that are already members of Lifestyles Unlimited, you can help the people that are thinking about becoming members. Am I Am I correct, or am I blowing smoke up your chimney?
No, that's exactly right. When people have questions, they're not sure if they even want to join. They don't know what the membership's about, how it might be able to help them. They're very cautious, just like I was. I can be one of the people, me and my team can be the people that answer their questions and say, hey, you're not talking to a salesman. I'm not commissioned. I don't make any money if you join or don't join. I am a member. I'm an investor. I've been where you're at. I didn't used to be an investor. I used to know very little. I used to have a lot of questions that I needed answered so I could take action. Now my team does that for people. So if you're a member, great, we'll help you with your next step. If you're not a member and you got questions, you can call us. I don't have a timer on my calls. If you need 10, 20 minutes, I give you 10, 20 minutes. If you need 30, I give you 30. I want you to get your questions answered so I can help you take the next step, because I know what it's like to be stuck, and it's no fun. You feel pretty much hopeless. You feel like this is going to go on like this forever with no improvement. And for a lot of people, it does, until they decide to step up and do something different.
Would you recommend to the audience members attending the free workshop? Or are we even calling it a free workshop anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called the Investor Compass Workshop now. So we changed it a little bit.
Okay.
And they branded it that because that's what you need. You need direction, right? It's still free. It's about 35 minutes. You can go to lifestylesunlimited.com and check it out. And our team responds to the questions in the chat there. So if you have a question, you can type it in, or a real person will get back to you on that when you have questions. And you get an opportunity to join once you've learned more about what we do, how our investment model works in both single and multifamily, and what the membership offers you. So the workshop covers all that. I would definitely say, Al, that is the best place to start. Even when people call me, if they're not quite sure, I say, you need to watch this workshop, because this is going to break it down and show you what the benefits of membership are and show you more about what we do as investors. And you can start to see, hey, I could do that. I could start to put the pieces together and see how this could work.
Yeah, I think it's very important that everybody at least consider attending. Now, say what the title is again, because I don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah, that's okay. It's the Investor Compass Workshop.
Investor Compass Workshop. See, now I'm learning something on my own radio show about something that Lifestyles Unlimited is doing. That effectively, we've always done it. We're just kind of rebranding what we're doing and the process itself to make it a little bit more acceptable to the modern American mind. I think that's really what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
So what's the response? I mean, do you get feedback from, hey, I watched your Investor Compass Workshop and I didn't agree with any of it. Do you get comments like that, or do you get comments like, wow, this is really great stuff. Where has this been? Is that the spectrum? Help me out here, Tim. My mind is dancing all over the place and I need clarity.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people who watch that free workshop, they'll just join. So our next contact with that person is as a member, and they say, I'm ready to go through. I'm going to attend the 2-day intensive, the Investor Skills Intensive. I'm going to dive in and learn how this is done. Once they're a member, they get support with unlimited Q&A with our team. They get a lot of on-demand content. They get access to our vendor marketplace. So they have resources now. They can reach out to investor-friendly lenders. There's investor-friendly tax professionals. There's contractors and electricians and plumbers and pretty much everything you could think about that you might need as a real estate investor. It's in that, available to them. But then there's some that aren't sure and they don't join, or they do have feedback. Probably the number one thing I see, Al, the people that check out of the workshop early or they didn't really like it, it wasn't what they were looking for. And maybe we're not for everybody. There's a lot of people out there looking for get rich quick. I'm 10 years in. I would say that's not my definition of quick. But did I get results? Am I moving in the right direction? Can I say that this is working, so I'm going to stick with it? Sure. this is what I needed. I knew get rich quick was a pipe dream. But there are people out there that are wanting to flip homes. We don't do that. That's a waste of time. That's a lot of headache, a lot of work, a lot of risk. And you don't own assets long enough to watch them grow. So it just doesn't work. But there's people that are looking for something quick, and they see our workshop and they realize, oh, this isn't fast. This isn't easy. And then they check out.
Yeah, and they go, oh, I might actually have to do a little bit of work to promote what I'm trying to accomplish. So it's really not for lazy people, right?
It's really not. You're going to have to take a little bit of action. Now, I went passive, so I would say I'm the laziest person in the group, right? I'm the guy who's going to trust his money to somebody else.
Make you pretty lazy, yeah.
Yeah, but it still took a little initiative. I needed to take some time to educate myself. I want to make good decisions when I invest with somebody. I need to take some time to meet some other people and network and build connections so I see opportunities in the future. So I couldn't just sit on my hands and stay at home to be successful as a member. The idea is that when I joined as a member, I got what I needed to take the next step. And as long as I was willing to take the next step, I could always make a call or go online and follow my curriculum and say, I know what's next. I never had that feeling of stuck as a member because I was no longer stuck. There was always somebody who could help me who was a little bit further ahead of me that I could call and get guidance from. Either another member, reach out to my mentor, take more education. We're adding to the education every week. There's new events. There's new classes that I can do to grow as an investor. So I haven't been stuck in 10 years, which is amazing because I was stuck for the first 15 years of my adult life.
That's pretty amazing. You want to help the audience out a little bit more?
Well, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's tell them where you like to invest. I mean, where are your apartment communities located that you're currently invested in?
Sure. So I started in Texas. And I love Texas as a market. My first deal was in Austin, Texas. My second one was in New Braunfels, Texas, a beautiful little community right between Austin and San Antonio, one of the fastest growing cities in the country right now. There was a time
is that one of the Dave Shipman properties, that New Braunfels one?
Which one did I invest in, you mean?
Yeah, I was wondering if that was one of David Fisher's properties, that New Braunfels property.
No, actually, the New Braunfels one was a couple of different leads, a couple other leads that I invested with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So okay. And the funny thing about that one is I was still thinking I wanted to do single family at that time, and I went on what we call a feasibility trip, where I was going as a volunteer to help them assess whether the property should be purchased. They had it under contract. They're doing feasibility. I was one of the people that did the unit walks. So I got to go inside the units and see what they look like and make notes for them and all that. And they treated us to lunch afterwards. And I said, out of curiosity, is there room in this deal? And he said, well, we've got a little bit of room. And since you helped today, I'd be happy to let you in. So it really is about putting yourself out there and meeting some people, because both of my first two deals were just 5-minute conversations of being in the right place and putting yourself there to make the connection and really feel confident. Yeah, I want to invest with this person.
Yeah, I think you just sealed the deal right there for the audience. You did exactly what I asked you to do. And I want to thank you for being on the show, Tim. I recognize that your time is valuable, and I appreciate you spending some of it with us. I believe you made a difference in somebody's life, and for that, I am very thankful. If you want to do what Tim's doing, you want to do what I'm doing, go to lifestylesunlimited.com. Sign up for that free workshop by clicking on Start Here, and let's get you going.
Thank you for listening to Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Ready for more of the map? Visit lifestylesunlimited.com. Explore our videos and articles. Click on the radio tab to access past show podcasts. View the radio show schedule and listen to our best of radio shows. Want to continue the conversation? Follow Lifestyles Unlimited on Facebook today. We want to meet you as well. Sign up for a free workshop at lifestylesunlimited.com. Until next time, remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this station, its affiliates, its management, or advertisers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.